Mine was also like a crash and burn situation. I got to. So I have Anti-GBM and MPA, which were both diagnosed. I was on a family reunion in Idaho in July of 2021, and we drove there from here. So during that drive, a lot of the times I'll get a little car sick and drives and just like not feel the best. So it felt just super normal, just be a little sick on the way there. And in the hotels, like I'd get out of the car after driving a super long time, just feel like I was about to throw up or something, but I never did. So I just thought, okay, that's normal, like I'm a little car sick. And then when we got there, my whole family was there, and we had this big house rented on a lake in Idaho, but by Yellowstone. So we played a bunch on that lake, and I just like wasn't feeling it. I didn't want to go out and play with them, which normally that's not like myself.
Sure.
And then a couple days later, we went to the actual Yellowstone Park, and we were doing hikes and stuff, and I was just, after a few of them, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. Like, I was walking around, just like, whenever there was a big hike or whatever, I just couldn't do it. I was just out of it. And so there was a big one coming up, and I told my mom, I just need to stay in the car. I can't do this. And she's like, in her head, she was like, no, he's just being like a teenager, you know, like he could do it, which is pretty valid. I would probably do that. But so I just laid in the car and was just not feeling it. I was just tired, like it was just normal fatigue symptoms. Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, we're going to the ER right away. And in my head, like, I didn't understand what that meant, so I didn't realize how big the situation was. So, and I had ER, I was like, oh, I guess we're going there. Like, I was not expecting that. So on the way there, it was pretty far away from any of them, so it was like an hour, 2 hours-ish. And we got there, and by the time I got there, I was even weaker. So my dad had to put his arm around me to go to walk into the ER. And I remember sitting in the lobby thinking, like, how serious the situation could end up, but it didn't really hit me. So then we finally got into a room, and they took it, my pulse ox there again, and it was at 60, so it had been declining super fast. And they immediately, at first they thought it was either a pneumonia or COVID, so that they did the tests for, like, I was like all the way back, and those hurt so bad.
Up the nose, yeah. Yes.
But they did those, and all of those came back negative, and they finally did a chest x-ray, and I still remember like having to be pushed forward because like hardly had the energy to do that for them to put it behind my back. And they saw, normally for your lungs on the x-ray it's supposed to just be like regular, but it was all just white, like there was stuff everywhere. And so they took me to a slightly bigger hospital still in Idaho, and there I hardly have any memories of that place. I don't remember going in or out, I just remember the room. And then my mom told me after I woke up that we were gonna go on like a flight to Utah, or like a big place. Then all of a sudden I'm being wheeled out, and I'm in an ambulance with the firefighters were doing at the time in the ambulance. And I was wheeled out right onto the runway, and I was so confused, like, why didn't we go through security? Like, why? This isn't the airport. And we were wheeled onto this tiny little plane, and it was only like a 30-minute or hour flight. And I hardly remember the flight. I just remember the nurses were amazing, and they were able to comfort me and my mom, because my dad was going to drive down to Utah a couple days later. So just me and my mom and the nurses on the plane, this tiny plane. And we landed, and it was super dark, and I remember going right out onto the runway and being wheeled straight into the ICU, and right there was like a ton of doctors and specialists all around me just making this huge plan about what they were going to do. And at that point they had figured out that my lungs were bleeding through a bronchoscopy, so I was having a pulmonary hemorrhage, and they put me on pressurized oxygen on the actual life flight, and they think that's probably what eventually stopped the bleeding. And so that was a lifesaver, literally. And the ICU nurses were amazing, and they helped to comfort me so much. And then we were moved into a smaller room in the ICU, which was a good sign. I was put on a ton of prednisone also during that. And after a few days in the smaller ICU room, we were able to finally go up to a regular hospital room. But during the ICU, they were able to diagnose me with the vasculitis, and that's when they were able to figure out and start actively treating a ton of, like with the prednisone. And that's what really was able to get me into the non-ICU hospital room. The initial part with the ICU and the ER and all that was only 3 or 4 days. But I had to stay there for the rest of the time because they put a port or like a catheter in my chest to do plasmapheresis because they were worried about my kidneys as well. And so they did that every other day for, I think, 5 times. They didn't want me to fly home because they were worried maybe with the pressure, like they were still worried about my lungs. They had stopped bleeding and my oxygen was back to normal, but everything was just up in the air because it was so new. So they're like, okay, we're just gonna have you drive. So the drive home went well, and we finally got home, and that was kind of the initial part. There's obviously still been a huge recovery, and I still had the catheter in for months afterward because they still thought I might have to do plasmapheresis or something like that after, but I never had to. Eventually got it removed. Overall, the experience was like, it was super challenging in the moment. I look back and I think it was a miracle I was able to stay like mentally in it and positive through it. It was definitely my parents and my grandpa who got me diagnosed also flew down with my brothers during that 17 days. And it also gave me really cool new perspectives, like with having to do plasmapheresis only just a few times and having that pour in. Helped me see like kids who are always on dialysis and stuff. Whenever I had to go into the hospital here to get it cleaned out and the tubes changed, I would see like the same kids on dialysis every time. I was like, it's insane how they can go through that, and they're like the biggest troopers, and it's such a hard thing. And yeah, even a few days of it, like it was super hard, but then they're doing it for their whole lives, waiting for a kidney transplant. And my kidneys I only lost about 20% function, so they're still good, but it just gave me a whole new perspective of people in that situation and how hard it is and how strong they are. Right after I got out of the hospital, I was still on a ton of prednisone, and I still had the port in. So the prednisone made me want to eat a bunch. So I got a little overweight in that time, and I was just not in the best mental state after because, again, I couldn't swim in pools or do anything like that with the port in. And my immune system was so compromised. Everybody at school was wearing masks anyway. There was a mandate, which was a miracle because that made it so I didn't have to do online school, which I did not like at all through COVID. But so I was able to go to school and stuff, but it just didn't feel the same, and I wasn't able to do much activities out of school. And I was originally planning on doing football. I was doing a summer camp for, like with lifting weights and stuff during the summer before I got hospitalized. And I wasn't able to do that, so that's why I did cross country instead. And I was super slow because I was on all these meds and overweight and all that. So a lot of times I'd just bury my head in the sand and not talk about it much. But then over time I was able to learn that if it wasn't for other people and just the help of the doctors and stuff, but even my friends, like for the homecoming dance or freshman year, none of my friends went, and instead we all went to my backyard and played football instead because I couldn't go because of my immune system. So that was super fun just to know that they were there to support me. And over that year, my mental state got so much better. And again, with the perspectives on like, it was just a very interesting experience to have at 13. I turned 14 in the hospital. Just to have that adult experience of that really helped me mature a lot and have more grown-up perspectives on things. And through that first freshman year, I was able to grow a lot. And once I got my port removed and stuff, I was able to get in a much better mental state. And then I was diagnosed with ADHD early of 2022, and that trial just felt so much more minuscule than vasculitis. And I feel like if vasculitis hadn't happened, then that would have felt like such a bigger mountain to climb. But I had already had all this experience with getting through these challenges like that it was, I still
like, this is nothing.
Yeah,
I got
it was
this.
just like, yeah,
good for you.
it was just like I can just get through this, like, and I know I have my support with my family and friends, and yeah, that was just cool to see. And through this sophomore year, life has been so much better, and I've been able to talk openly about it with my friends. They all know about it instead of burying my head in the sand. And as of right now, I'm in remission, and I haven't had any flare-ups since the original. And yeah, I've been on rituximab and stuff to keep it at bay, and some just meds overall. And it doesn't affect my daily life very much. Like, it's always something to think about in my head. Mm-hmm. But again, it's helped me think, like, if I get like a bad grade in the test or something, like, it's not the end of the world. Like, there's much bigger things out there that are way worse, and no matter what happens, I know I can get through it, and that I just need to be here for the time that I have. Like, this is gonna be my only sophomore year I ever have of high school, so I need to take advantage while I can and have fun while I'm at it. And yeah, this year and everything has just gotten so much better slowly, and my mental state has been so much better, and yeah, I'm in remission. I have done a few therapy appointments, and that's helped a lot. Okay. And I think just doing that at a young age and starting is, again, helping with my adult perspective on things. And yeah, for the future, I'm hoping there's no relapses, and that eventually, since I'm so young, I hopefully have a lot of years ahead of me for a cure to possibly be made, or just better treatment overall. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's about it.
Well, it's a blessing to start therapy at a young age, because life is hard for anybody, much less someone with a life-threatening medical condition or any medical condition. And so it's so nice you're doing that. Has it made you want to do anything in the medical field as you get older? Have you thought about what you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah, so right now I'm taking an AP Bio class, actually, and a lot of the terms my teacher uses, I'll just know what they are just because of the whole hospital experience. Yeah. So it has kind of sparked an interest in that, and seeing so many different doctors and how cool they've been and how much they've helped, it's definitely sparked an interest in medical career or something to do with that. So yeah.
Love it. That's great.
In May of 2022, BHVC, the Brett Hack Vasculitis Charity, me and my mom helped organize a fundraiser fun run with them. It was just at a park close to our house, and I invited a bunch of my friends to go, not thinking that they'd like turn out, because it was just kind of this random thing. But they all went, and a ton of my friends went, and it was a super fun experience. And I was able to do a little speech there too, and talk to them about what vasculitis was. And now a bunch of my friends and a bunch of people have a lot more awareness for it. And just having that fun experience with the charity and being able to raise money and awareness for vasculitis was a really cool experience.